All right, all you future CPAs out there, welcome. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that I know might seem like it belongs strictly to the IT department, auditing network controls. But stick with me, because by the end of this, you're going to see why this is an absolutely fundamental skill for any financial auditor who really wants to get the job done right.
So let's just start with a question that kind of cuts through all the noise. Your accounting software, it's got all these built-in checks, right? It's not going to let you post a debit without a matching credit. We call those application controls. But what if someone could just walk right around the application and change the numbers directly in the database? All of a sudden, that network becomes the unlocked backdoor to the whole building. If it's not secure, every single one of those clever application controls is basically worthless.
So here's our game plan for today. We're going to follow the exact path an auditor takes. We'll start with the big picture, then we'll learn the lingo, define our mission, get into the nitty-gritty tests you'll actually be doing, and then, the most important part, learning how to spot the real problem.
Okay, Section 1. Let's lay the groundwork. Why should you, a future CPA who's going to live and breathe financial statements, care one bit about the technical guts of firewalls and routers? Let's connect those dots right now.
It all boils down to this term you're going to hear a lot: General IT Controls, or GITCs. The best way to think about GITCs is to picture the concrete foundation of a house. The house is the business, and the rooms inside are all the applications, like your accounting software. Now, if that foundation has a giant crack in it, does it really matter how strong the walls are in one of the bedrooms? Of course not. The whole structure is at risk.
And this quote, it just nails it. This shows you the hierarchy of controls. It does not matter how fancy your application is. A weak network, which is a failure in those foundational GITs, can literally hand an attacker the keys to the kingdom. And with that kind of access, they can waltz past every single safeguard you have in your accounting software. Your entire financial audit depends on being able to trust those applications, and you simply can't do that if the GIT foundation is crumbling.
So, if GITCs are the foundation, we need to know how to read the blueprint, right? In this section, we're going to cover the basic vocabulary. Look, you don't need to become a network engineer, but you do need to speak the language so you can understand the core ideas behind a secure network design. Okay, the first big architectural idea you'll see is segmentation. So instead of having one giant flat network where everything can talk to everything else, a segmented network carves things up into smaller, isolated zones. You know, maybe your critical financial databases live in one super secure zone, while the public website lives in a completely different one. It's all about containing the damage. And this is the perfect way to picture it. If one compartment on a ship springs a leak, what do? They slam the doors shut, and the rest of the ship stays afloat. As an auditor, your job is to be the inspector checking those watertight doors, which are the firewalls between the network segments, to make sure they are actually sealed tight and only open when they're supposed to. So these are the common doors and guards you're going to run into. Firewalls are the main gatekeepers, and you'll often see fancy ones like next-gen or web application firewalls. An intrusion prevention system, or IPS, is like an active security guard, always watching for attacks and blocking them. Network access control, or NAC, is kind of like a health inspector for laptops and phones, checking them out before they're allowed to connect. And of course, VPNs create that secure, encrypted tunnel for people working from home.
Okay, you've got the lingo down. So now what? What's your actual mission here? Every single test you run, every question you ask, it has to trace back to these three core principles.
Your true north as an IT auditor is the CIA triad. And no, not that CIA. This stands for confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These three principles are the absolute bedrock of information security, and they are the bedrock of your audit work.
This table is basically your roadmap. For confidentiality, you're testing things like encryption on VPNs to make sure secrets are staying secret. For integrity, you're looking at things like an IPS to make sure data isn't being changed when it shouldn't be. And for availability, you're making sure the systems are actually online and working, protected by things like backup hardware. Every test you run has to map back to one of these three goals. It's that simple. All right, this is where the rubber meets the road. We're officially moving from theory to the practical, step-by-step things you'll actually be doing out in the field. This is your playbook.
So when you're auditing a firewall, your playbook has three key moves. First, you've got to confirm the default deny principle. This means the very last rule on that firewall better be one that says block everything else. It's a safety net. Second, you're going to hunt for any rule that says allow any traffic from anywhere. And for every single one you find, you demand a rock-solid business justification. And third, you check that the device itself has been hardened. That means they've changed the default passwords and shut off any services they're not using.
Remote access is a huge target for attackers, so testing the VPN is critical. You'll get the configuration file and make sure they're using strong, modern encryption. Then, and this is a big one, you confirm that multi-factor authentication, MFA, is required for every single person connecting. A password alone? Nope, not good enough anymore. Finally, you review the logs. Is anyone even watching for weird stuff, like someone logging in from 2 different countries at the same time?
And this right here, this brings it all home. This is the golden rule of IT audit. All of these technical tests on firewalls, on VPNs, you're doing them for one single reason, so that you can stand up and confidently say that the general IT environment is secure enough for you to then rely on the financial applications that are running on top of it.
All right, our final section. And honestly, this is the skill that separates a good auditor from a truly great one. It's the ability to take a small technical detail and translate it into a significant business risk that the board of directors needs to hear about.
Okay, check this out. A junior auditor reports the finding on the left. Hey, this port is open. And yeah, that's technically true. But a great auditor asks, why? Why is that port open? And the answer to that why leads you to the real issue on the right. The entire process for making changes is broken. Now that is a much more serious failure, because it means who knows what other bad changes have gotten through.
You have to remember, these technical weaknesses, they're usually just the symptom of a much deeper disease. When you find a misconfigured firewall, you're really looking at a failure of change management. You find a router that hasn't been updated, that's a failure of patch management. Your job is to find and report that root cause, that underlying process failure, not just a little technical symptom you tripped over. Now, the good news is you're not making this stuff up as you go along. As you get into your career, you'll use established frameworks to guide you. A really key international standard is called ISO 27001, and its latest version gives you a checklist of 93 different security controls you can test against. It's a comprehensive playbook for finding both the symptoms and those deeper process failures.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? The key point is that the world is changing, and fast. We're moving away from this old-school castle and moat idea of security, where we just trust everybody inside the walls. The future is something called zero trust, where absolutely nobody is trusted by default. Your job as an auditor is going to be less about checking a static list of firewall rules and a whole lot more about testing the dynamic, intelligent policies that grant access based on who a person is and how healthy their device is.
And that leaves us with a final thought I want you to carry with you into your careers. More and more, security decisions are going to be made automatically by AI. So as auditors, how do we get assurance over that? Your future job might not be about testing the configuration of the machine, but about testing the intelligence and the logic of the algorithm that's running the machine itself. Think about that.